How much should you tip your bartender? Coming from a former bartender, I'm going to break this down into three different categories: the standard, the classic, and the exceptional.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel where I'd like to explore everything that life has to offer, and a big part of this channel is vlogs. I love going to events, festivals, parties, nightclubs, and a lot more. And especially because I'm a former bartender, one big question I have been asked is, hey Mark, how much should you tip your bartender? And like I said in the intro, I'm gonna break this down into three different categories. Number one, starting off with the standard 20%. I hate YouTubers that ramble on. 20% is the standard. Like, say if you don't know how much to tip your bartender, 20% is the standard and the safest bet. Another good aspect about tipping 20% is it's super easy when it comes to the math. And yes, we all have a calculator on our phone. When it comes to tipping 20%, it's super easy when it comes to the math. All you have to do is take the amount, move the decimal place over 1, and then double it. So let's say my bill is $30. I move the decimal place over 1, so $3. Times that by 2, 6. So I'm tipping $6 on a $30 tab. The second category is the classic. And what I'm talking about, and this is where the gray area starts to appear when it comes to bartending, and that is $1 per drink. Now, when it comes to being, like, say, a waiter or a waitress, 20% across the board. You always do that. But when it comes to bartending, there is this common practice that it's acceptable to tip $1 per drink. Like I said, though, this is a bit of a gray area, and here's my best advice. If, let's say, your drink is a one-step drink, meaning it's a beer, a shot, glass of wine, glass of champagne, basically something with only one ingredient, tipping $1, 100% acceptable. So for example, when I was bartending, there were times someone ordered an $8 beer and tipped $1 on that $8 beer, perfectly acceptable. Now, technically, should they tip 20% if let's say we're using the standard approach? Yeah, maybe they should have tipped me, let's say $1.60, right? 20% of $8. But when it comes to bartending, like I said, because a beer takes 2 seconds to fill, or let's say pouring a single shot or pouring a single glass of wine, $1 per drink is acceptable. Now, the second you start to add more ingredients, this is where it gets a bit more tricky. Remember, the biggest thing when it comes to a lot of bartenders is speed. Now, take, let's say, a rum and coke, for example. Being honest, making a rum and coke is probably faster than pouring a beer out of the tap, right? So when it comes to rum and coke, let's say if I go to a dive bar, I order a rum and coke, and it's $7 for that rum and coke. Tipping $1 when it comes to that rum and coke, it is most likely acceptable, even though that involves more ingredients. However, let's say I go to a very high-end place and I order a gin and tonic. Still a very simple drink, but I order a gin and tonic, and let's say it's $14. Should you tip $1 on that $14 drink? In my opinion, I don't think so. And this is where this kind of gray area does exist for a lot of bartenders. Some bartenders say, hey, if it's a simple drink like a rum and coke, $1's fine. Other bartenders say no. When it comes to the dollar per drink rule, it only exists for simple drinks. And lastly, the third aspect of tipping, the exceptional. This is pretty straightforward, and that is, of course, if your bartender goes above and beyond the typical line of practice, you should 100% tip them more than 20%. One great example of this is Liam. I have featured him in a bunch of my videos. He's one of the best bartenders I've ever had. He's a bartender here in Los Angeles at a place called Grain in Playa del Rey. And I remember one time, for example, I was doing a YouTube video and I said, hey, make me your craziest drink. And he made a drink where he was passing fire back and forth between two glasses. It was insane. The drink, as a side note, was called the Blue Blazer. And of course, I tipped him way more than 20% because I appreciated him going above and beyond. Other bartenders, for example, let's say spending 8 or 9 or 10 minutes on just one drink, which in the bartending world is an eternity. Like I said, speed is the biggest thing when it comes to bartending. So of course, if your bartender goes above and beyond the typical line of practice, make sure you tip them more than 20%.